Hi, friends. Welcome back to Have I Told You the One About? Why am I wearing a Canada Day umbrella hat, you ask? Because we're having a very special story today that involves nationalism or whatever. Canadians abroad. And who's going to be our imaginary friend today? Let's see. We're going to count to 3 and our imaginary friend will materialize. Are you ready? Count with me. 1, 2, 3. Ta-da!
Ta-da! So good to be your imaginary friend.
Hi.
A figment of your imagination.
Yes, it's all going on in my mind.
That's ooh.
Friends
Denise.
friends out in the world. This is Denise, my imaginary friend. And she's going to tell you a story about what it means to be Canadians abroad. It's called The Kenney Sisters.
Yeah.
Dum, dum, dum.
Well, I don't know if this is what it means to be Canadians abroad, but it definitely is about being Kenney sisters abroad, for sure.
You need your own country, I hear.
I do. Yeah, we do. We do. Actually, I thought of this story because with the COVID-19 thing going on, people are connecting with people they haven't seen for years and sort of they've got time on their hands. So they're checking out who's out there. And a guy that we met when we were cycling in former Yugoslavia from Colorado, an American guy, Paul, somehow found my sister in Australia and emailed her.
Wow.
Or contacted her somehow, yeah. And said, I'm wondering what's up with the Kenney sisters, those incredible women that I cycled with so many years ago. And so it made me think of this story, and my sister and I were then talking about the story or about that trip and kind of brought it back to mind. So
okay, I can't wait.
On my mind.
Away you go.
Yeah. Oh, away I go?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to go. So that's why I'm telling this story. And my sister and I have traveled a lot together. So much so that, like, many people just only know us as a pair. And we've always been a pair, and I kind of want to can I set my story up, Michael?
Yeah. Oh, no, of course.
I need to set it up, because you got to, like it.
You need to tell me who the Kenney sisters are before they go on their trip.
I can tell you who the Kenney sisters are. So it's I have 2 sisters, but this is my older sister.
Let's give her
Jeanette.
a name. Oh, Jeanette.
What were you going to call her?
No, I just wanted to know what her name was.
Let's give her a name. Jeanette. So when I was 5 and my sister was 7, our mother was killed in a car accident.
Oh, man.
And the day, I've told this story before, but I remember the day of learning, coming home from Teeny Tots and learning that my mother was killed. And the 3 of us, my father, my sister, and I were all crying on the bed in the bedroom. And I remember sneaking out past the doctor, because the doctor was there to give us medication so we wouldn't have nightmares or something. And my Auntie Nain was there, Auntie Nain, and they were in the kitchen. And I snuck under the counter so they wouldn't see me and went and got my mother's slippers from the hall and brought them into the bedroom so that we could hug the slippers. And I took one slipper and I gave my sister the other slipper. And that was, I think, the beginning of our pairing. So from then on in, it was kind of us and the world. My father really believed in us being quite independent, and so we were. I'm looking at myself, but I really should be looking there. Anyway.
What are you talking about, imaginary friend? You can look wherever you want.
So we really were a unit, and quite independent, and pretty well did what we wanted for the most part. Like when we lived with my grandparents in Victoria when I was in grade 2, and we got money for the bus to go see the circus, and we lived in Oak Bay, to see the circus right downtown. Jeanette and I had the brilliant idea of just using the money for more candy and then like trying to hitchhike or get back, 10 kilometers back home, whatever it was. Didn't think anything of it. We ended up just walking and figuring it out. And that was grade 2.
How
And
old were
so
you?
by
You
grade,
were in grade 2, so you were like 7.
yeah, 7.
And
I
how
was
old was
7 and she
Jeanette?
was 9. And then when I was in grade 7, so how old are you in grade 7?
12.
12. And she was 14. We actually were visiting relatives in Kelowna, and they tried to put us on the bus. And as soon as they left, we got off the bus, cashed in the money, and we hitchhiked from Kelowna to Terrace. Well, and she was, along the Highway of Tears.
And the Highway of
So,
Tears, for the Americans who are watching, the Highway of Tears is where a lot of women go missing and young girls. It's infamous. Hundreds of people have gone missing on that highway.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
And
that's heavy.
yeah, it's heavy. So, but we were fine. We somehow were always okay. And so when it was time to go to university, my sister was in Edmonton. So I went to the University of Alberta in Edmonton. We took up skydiving for years. There's lots of stories about that. But that's not the story I'm going to tell. Although I have to say, lots of people around the world know us as the Kenney sisters from skydiving and other things.
You can come back and tell a skydiving story
I'll
another
come back
day.
to the stories. Those are other stories.
If you jumped out of a plane, you deserve 2 story times.
I know. Well, and naked, jumping out of planes naked. There's some really good jumping off of bridges. There's some good stories there. But this one, we decided to go and live in France. So we went and lived in France. We went to the University of Caen in Normandy. We lived in an apartment that we furnished with a mattress that we found in the alley. And all we had was a cook stove for that year. But in the spring of that year, we had this idea that we were going to go and do a cycle tour. Now, I was 19 at the time. And this was in 1983. So now everybody cycles to us. But in 1983, there weren't a lot of people touring on bikes, I'll tell you. And we didn't know anything about it. But we just bought like road bikes, light Peugeot road bikes, loaded them down with panniers and headed out. We didn't even know how to change a tire. And we just figured it out. So we figured it out within within a month. We pretty well had it dialed in, and our parents were going to come and we were going to spend family time traveling in Europe with our parents in the beginning of July, starting in the beginning of July. So this isn't like April or whatever. So off we go. We make it. Long story. This isn't the most interesting part. So I'm going to skip to getting to the border of Portugal, which is where we got to. And we called home. Now, for young people, you didn't call home much back then because you had to find a phone booth. You had to have coins. It was very awkward.
This was before cell phones?
This was before any of that.
Oh my God, you're
1983, baby.
Wow.
There was nothing then
Pay
for
phones.
that. And we rarely called home. So we called home and they said, we're planning on doing the family vacation in Portugal. So we said, well, that sucks because we don't want to cycle Portugal and then come back and do Portugal. So we thought, okay, we're just going to take the train to the south of Greece and then we'll cycle Greece and former Yugoslavia, back through Italy, back into France. And by then we'll be able to take a train or whatever up to Amsterdam where they were arriving and meet them. So let's call this the start of the clock. Okay, so this is the start of the clock on doing our bike trip, but getting to Amsterdam by the beginning of July. This is sounding like a really boring travel story because people
it's going to get really good.
Stories, but actually,
I can tell
it gets better.
You're trouble's inevitable.
Trouble's inevitable. Okay, so we take a train. First of all, I'm going to say we take a train to Barcelona. Now, in Barcelona, we had been there and had hung out with 2 drug dealers, one from Haiti and the other from Africa, Sammy and Caramba.
What kind of drugs?
Heroin. It was serious drugs. We just met them. We got along. They looked after us. It was a really bizarre experience of being a member of a gang in a way. We were probably the safest people in Barcelona. No matter where we went, at the end of the day, if we went back, they always knew where we had been. We got kicked out of the pension we were staying in for hanging out with them.
So they took you under their wing?
So they took us under their wing. They always made sure we had milk to drink. There were some really funny things about being from, developing countries. They had, they were really kind of interesting people. Anyway, when we came back through Barcelona, we said, we went to the plaza. We said, we're Sammy and Karamba's friends. Are they here? And the guy, of course, would say, no, don't know who you're talking about. We said, okay, thank you. And then you come back the next day and you say the same thing. And they say, yes, like they had to check with them, which we knew. Turned out Karamba was in jail for obvious reasons and wanted us to come and see if we could help him. So we waited for like 5 hours or so to even get in to see him. It was horrible. And by the time we got in to see him, he was just screaming at us, help me, you're white, help me. So we said, well, if you got a lawyer. He'd been in there for months by that point because we were just coming back through Barcelona on our way to Greece to do this thing. So this is derailing our clock a little bit. But the point of this story, and it sounds like a punchline, which is really horrible, but I pulled out a book to write down the name of his lawyer in, because, you pick up books at hostels or whatever. And the book I was reading was Crime and Punishment. It's true. We contacted the lawyer. We tried to help him, but we couldn't really. There was not much we could do with the Spanish system, and he really should have been in jail. But anyway, so that slowed our clock down. Then we got on a train from Barcelona to Cannes and shared the car we were in with the drummer for Cyndi Lauper. But we didn't know who Cyndi Lauper was because we had been in Europe all year and we just weren't very tuned in.
So this was 1980.
Michael, at the best of times, I'm not terribly tuned in.
1983.
1983.
Yeah.
And he was off to the French Riviera to do something with Cyndi Lauper. We didn't know who she was, which really pissed him off.
Well, I saw the She's So Unusual tour.
Sorry, go ahead.
I saw the She's So Unusual tour in 1985. And that was her first album. That was her first tour. And she toured with the Bangles, and nobody knew who the Bangles were. And that was 2 years later. So you were definitely on the cusp.
Okay, so it's not weird that we didn't know who she was.
No, probably not.
Okay, cool, because we didn't. But he was the drummer for Foreigner. He said, "Well, do you know who Foreigner is?" And we said, "Yeah, well, we know Foreigner." And he said, "Well, Foreigner. I was with Foreigner." We said, "Oh, okay, that's who he is." Anyway,
in case you're wondering, my dick's really big.
Yeah, it really bothered him that we didn't know. We weren't impressed.
That's funny.
But we ended up hanging out with pilots on the French Riviera who had just flown. We actually crashed in their hotel room. Who had just flown Princess Di there from Australia. Don't know why. So Princess Di was there.
It's sounding more and more like you were two very pretty young girls and people would tell you anything in order to see what they could get. But keep going.
Well,
maybe.
Yeah, well, we were benefiting, I have to say, more than the others in most of these cases. But yeah, we were 19 and 21 on bicycles. Not many women were nobody was riding bikes, never mind women. So we end up in the south of Greece. We're running out of money, and everything is slowed down. Like our clock is ticking because we got derailed in Barcelona, right? So Greece is gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. We're not paying to stay anywhere because that costs money. So we're just sleeping along the road wherever we are. We slept under this gorgeous jasmine tree, and I remember waking up, and when I sat up, all the jasmine blossoms just fell off of my body. It was gorgeous. We slept in a traffic circle in Athens
without a tent, apparently.
No, we had a tent, but we wouldn't set up a tent there in a traffic circle. And when I woke up, there was a street guy snuggled up next to me, which was very funny. And work our way up north. We ended up going to a Greek wedding for 3 days because a woman who ran a store where we were had a brother who lived in Prince Rupert. So because we were from northern BC, only 90 kilometers from where her brother lived, that was it. We were in a Greek wedding for 3 days. It was great.
Obviously.
Oh yeah.
What else do you
That was
do?
the first place I saw fireflies, was in Greece. And we never knew where we were going because we couldn't afford maps. So we basically had a general idea, but like I remember cycling along and looking and seeing this shaft of light hitting this mountain and saying to my sister, boy, it's no wonder people sort of attributed like Mount Olympus, the gods living on the mountains. And then we cycled like 5 more minutes and there was a sign saying Mount Olympus. And we thought, oh, we're near Mount Olympus. But we never really, like my sister and I were talking about this, we never really had maps. We had really basic maps that would head us in the right direction, but that was it.
Wow.
We really didn't know where we were going. So when we crossed into Yugoslavia, everything changed. The people changed. They weren't as friendly. It got way, way more difficult. So we couldn't stop because we would be harassed a lot by men. If we were in campgrounds, you couldn't shower because the men would surround where we were showering.
Oh my
One
God.
night, in our tent, we pulled over and set up a tent. I woke up with a guy on top of me and with my arms pinned. And then
Denise.
I saw my sister jump on top of him and wrench his head back and I got my hands cleared. So then I started swinging and she started swinging. And this guy didn't know what hit him, man. But by the time both of us were on him, but it was unrelenting. It was very, very difficult. And we cycled around the Albanian border and we got to the top of this hill and we went into this little cafe. And we were just sort of getting water or whatever. And this trucker guy in the cafe in very broken English said, get up, go out and lock yourself in my truck. And we looked at him and we thought, okay, I think this is a good idea. And we left the cafe and locked ourselves in his truck. And he got our bikes and put them in the back of his truck. And he and all the men in the cafe, because there were no women in the cafe, followed him out. And they were negotiating for us. And, he drove us out of there.
Holy Mary.
Yeah.
You guys were lucky so many times over.
What's that?
You were lucky so many times over.
We were really lucky. At the border, like going into Yugoslavia and going out of Yugoslavia, the guy would say, he'd have your passport. And he'd say, I'm off in 5 minutes. Do you want to go to the bush and fuck? And you'd kind of go, well, no, thank you. We're kind of on a schedule, like
Man.
there was nowhere that was safe for us. I was slower than Jeanette on my bike, and she always knew where I was because the cat calls. She could kind of count. If we were going by workers or anything, she would know, oh, Denise is this far behind me because she could hear. And this is why when we ran into Paul and his friend, who neither Jeanette nor I could remember his name, which is really funny because he was...
This is the guy who just emailed you.
This is the American guy from Colorado, Paul Anderson.
Oh.
We were thrilled to be cycling with men because it made our life easier. So we cycled with them for about a week, probably, I'm guessing. I remember going to Dubrovnik with them. And when I was thinking about telling this story, I thought, I should have all my map things right. And I couldn't figure out why I didn't have a better sense of the map. And it's because we didn't have maps. I realized, that's because we didn't really know where we were either. Anyway, Larry and Paul. Larry was kind of a weird guy, and neither of us could remember Larry. But Paul we remembered because we went and visited him in Colorado a few years later. Anyway, when we left Larry and Paul, we found ourselves, I remember sitting under a bridge, probably around Split in that area, and we counted our money, and we checked out the time we had left to get to Amsterdam, and we thought, oh my God, we're in trouble, right?
Uh-oh.
And remember, you can't just wire for money in these days, right? Like how they would, even if we try to get a hold of our parents, how would they get money to Yugoslavia? How would we even arrange it? First of all, we'd have to find a phone to get in contact with them.
Well, yeah, and it wouldn't happen overnight. It would take days, probably.
It would take days.
And you didn't have days.
Yeah, we weren't comfortable. We kind of wanted to get out. So we tried to stow away on a boat, I remember.
to sneak in.
To shorten our trip. Like, it was a boat that was going up the coast. So, like, probably...
I love this story.
What's that?
I love this story.
I know. We tried to stow in a boat. We got kicked off. We basically cycled, got out of Yugoslavia. I remember ending up, we were in Venice. And we thought, okay, this is it. We've got like maybe $10 and we've got to get across Italy. Because we had been living in France, we had money in a bank account in France. So we thought if we get into France, then we just have to go to a bank because we have a student bank account in France and we can get our money that way. So the plan was I stole a bunch of pasta. And Jeanette, we still had a cook stove. So we had water in a cook stove and we had pasta. And we figured we could get across Italy somehow on our bikes. Why
would you even need to cook that pasta if it was already hot?
Yeah,
that was a good setup.
You try cycling all day, Mr. Jokester, on very little food. We had some potatoes.
Where'd you steal the pasta from? Just some store?
A store in Venice.
Oh, Jesus. Okay, I'm sorry I'm interrupting because I'm slowing it down, but it's very thrilling.
It's a store in Venice. I stole the pasta, and we headed out. And we thought we would ask, like Italian farms and stuff if we could stay there, and then we hoped that they would then offer us food, right? Like, we're half Italian, but neither of us speak Italian. And we had heard that there would be issues with the men in Italy, but in fact, there weren't issues with the men in Italy because the men in Italy, there's one thing they like better than women, and that is?
I don't know.
Maiko, any guess?
Gay men?
Maybe, I would
What
know.
do they like better? Their mamas.
Women. What do they like better than women?
The respect of their mothers.
Bicycles, baby. Bicycles.
Oh.
The Italians love bikes.
Oh, you asked the wrong person that question.
Yeah, they love bikes.
Oh, okay.
So they were super interested in our bikes. They would hang out with us, cycle for the day, and then turn around, and cycle back. It was just fantastic. Cycling in Italy, because lots of people would join us and cycle for a bit, right? They were intrigued. Because not a lot of people were bike touring.
Right.
But it was a bit grueling, and at one point, we just had our heads down, and we had been cycling for 3 months at this stage, so we were pretty fit. But just like head down, cycling, so bad that at one point I ran full speed into a parked car because my head was down, like I was just like pedaling. Bang! I flew over the parked car and landed on the hood on the other side of it.
Oh my God.
I know, just I wasn't looking. We looked around because we didn't want to end up having to pay for fixing a parked car or like fixing a car. Bent the forks back out on my bike, threw the wheel back on. It was okay. By now, I could practically, change a flat tire in like 5 minutes. Like we were, got back on the bike and just kept going. And so now, think time, right? We were trying to get to Amsterdam, and this was an issue too. Our parents were in transit by this point. Like they weren't even home because they probably went through Vancouver and visited relatives. We didn't even know where they were. All we knew was that we had to be in Amsterdam by a certain time. We're approaching the border at the French Riviera, southern France, just before a long weekend when all the banks would be closed.
Oh, no.
Yes, and we're on bikes. And so Jeanette, again, was faster than me. So she said, look, I'm going to sprint. I don't know if I took an extra panier from her or whatever. I'm sprinting. I'm going to try and get there before the banks close. I'll meet you in such and such a place. Because we had been in Cannes before, because remember, we hung out with the pilots from Australia there, so we knew Cannes. Anyway, she didn't make it. So the banks had closed. So we're facing a long weekend on the French Riviera, no food, we're tired, nowhere to sleep. We ended up finding, we slept in this gully in, a residential area, which was good because French Riviera, they police the beaches and stuff. You can't just sleep on the street. So we slept in a gully. I remember trying to sell my Walkman speakers. We had Walkmans, remember those? We had Walkman speakers. But everybody on the beach is thinking, they've read the Go, what is that? The Go Global, no. What are those books?
Oh, the Lonely Planet and...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it says in there, be careful of other travelers trying to sell you shit on the beach or something, because they're looking at us very suspiciously. So that didn't work. And I remember having an epiphany, watching somebody feed their dog an ice cream cone. I remember saying to my sister, you know what? If we had money right now, we should just buy booze just to get us through the weekend, just so that we don't have to feel this way. And that was a real learning thing for me, because I thought, man, what if there was no end to this, right? I totally get it. Why people,
why
drink.
people, right.
The only person on the French Riviera to give us anything was a guy, because the markets in France are great, and you can go out behind and they put out the fruit that's kind of going off or partly rotten or whatever. It's like a Bugs Bunny cartoon. Anyway, so we went in behind in the alley there, and we were picking through that stuff. And there was another guy doing the same thing, and he gave us his best tomato or something. So that was the only person on the French Riviera who gave us any money.
Wow.
So we're licking our chops by Tuesday morning or whenever it was when the banks are open. We go into the bank, fuck, we made it, right? Oh my God, this is great. And we say, we've got this account and stuff. And they say, I'm sorry, you can't have money because that's a foreigner's account. And you can't transfer, you could only deposit foreign funds into that account. They weren't comfortable just giving us money there without verifying that we hadn't been working illegally in France. So in other words, it would take a couple days for the transfer to happen.
Oh, no.
To get verified so we could get the money.
What a shit show.
I can't even tell you how devastated. I mean, we'd been waiting 4 days. We were hungry. We were tired. We had to get up to Amsterdam. We had to take a train to Amsterdam. So we left the bank and we sat and we thought, what are we going to do? And my sister, who's littler than me, because I'm not a small person, she said, fuck it. This is stupid. This is our money. I'm going back in. And we both went in, and she lost it. That's my money. You can't. We're hungry. We're tired. You got to give us our money. She's screaming in the bank. The guy rushes us into this side room. And by then, we're both weeping in a chair. We're puddles in the chair on the other side of his desk.
Oh.
And he basically says, okay, how much do you need to get home, to Caen, where we had been living? We had friends. There's Cannes in the French Riviera and Caen in Normandy. That's where we had been living is in Normandy in the north. So how much do you need to get to your friend's place? And so we're like, well, we need this much for the train or whatever. And so he said, okay, I'll vouch for it. So it was coming out of our account, but he was vouching for it. So if it didn't go through or if there was an issue, he'd be on the hook for it, right?
Right, yeah.
So we got the money, we left, and then we realized that we had only told him the amount of money we needed for the train.
Oh, no.
We hadn't told him enough to get food.
Oh, no.
So
because you were in a panic, because you were exhausted and starving and in a panic.
Exhausted, starving, in a panic. We weren't thinking straight. I mean, okay, you have to keep in mind, we had just cycled across Italy with no food, right?
Yeah.
So we're Anyway, Jeanette goes into another bank, loses it again. The nice bank teller lady does the same thing. And she comes out smiling. She's got money. And we buy some food. And it's like the best, like it was a baguette and some cheese. And we were just thrilled. And that night, we got on a train to get up to Normandy to Caen, where we were going to leave our bikes, get some money from friends, and then take the train or whatever to Amsterdam. I don't even think we thought that far. We just had to drop our bikes at Caen. We get on the train. We're in a car with a bunch of North African men who are smoking. So we fight them about that. And then every time, so this is an over, nighttime trip. Every time we fall asleep, they're on top of us.
Oh no!
Like molesting us. So,
oh man,
and we would just say no.
This story needs a trigger warning, lady.
Like, no, you can't do that. Yeah, that should be. There's a trigger warning there.
Oh,
and then
man.
they would back off, and then we would be sitting on the train, and then we would gradually end up nodding off to sleep, and boom, their hands would be on us again.
Oh man!
And we'd wake up and we'd say no, and that's how we spent the night getting to Caen, to Normandy. So we get to Caen, we leave our bikes, we get just enough money to, I don't know why we decided this. I think our friends didn't give us as much money as we wanted. Because remember, we're on a time crunch here. We've got to get to Amsterdam. So we decide to hitchhike to Amsterdam. We've left our bikes now. We're hitchhiking. We've got 2 backpacks. We get a ride with this Belgian trucker who says he's going there. So we're in the truck somewhere in Belgium. And he keeps getting out and going to the back, looking in the rearview mirror so he can see us in the cab of the truck and jacking off.
Jesus.
So Jeanette says, my sister says, oh my God, Denise, don't look now.
You should have called it the molestation of the Kenney sisters. Yeah,
exactly. But you know what? This story's okay because, like you say, we were lucky. Like, we've been very lucky. So that's what he would do. He would stop, he'd go to the back, jack off by looking in the rearview mirror. And we figured, well, as long as that's all he's doing, I guess we're getting to Amsterdam, right? Except at some point, he stops somewhere in Belgium and pulls out like Playboy magazines or something, and asks us if we look the same. And we lose it. We say, we're going to wreck your fucking truck. We're going to rip your, so the 2 of us just are on him.
Yeah.
He says, get out of my truck. We say, fuck you. We're going to get out of your truck. And we grab our packs. He drives off. We kick his truck as he's leaving in this big triumphant, punctuating kick. And then as he leaves, this is kind of getting late, everything quietens down and we realize we have no idea where we are. We're somewhere on, a highway in Belgium. And we've got to get to Amsterdam, I think, by the next day at this point. So we're thinking, okay, shit, we've got a day now to get there. So we sleep under a tree beside this highway, and we start hitchhiking the next day. And we get a ride with these 2 young Belgian guys who we convince it's cheaper to change their money at the Amsterdam airport. They clearly
so
hadn't
you can
traveled
get
much
dropped off at the airport.
You always get ripped off at the airport, but we somehow convinced them that it would be cheaper for them.
No, but you want to get to the Amsterdam airport. That's your destination.
Exactly.
Oh,
that
you
was our little devious strategy.
You sly little girls. You earned that deception.
I tell you.
Okay, we're almost there.
They believe us. They go to the airport. Like, we literally get to the airport 20 minutes before our parents' flight gets in. 20 minutes. So from under the bridge in Yugoslavia, when we actually realized we had no money, to getting to Amsterdam 20 minutes before their flight got in. It was amazing. And we stayed that night, once our parents were in Amsterdam, at like a 3-star hotel, which for us was like, we hadn't even been staying in campgrounds, right? We had been just sleeping by the side of the road.
You got to sleep in a bed.
What's that?
You got to sleep in a bed for the first time in weeks.
Well, months. We've been on the road for 3.5 months.
Not sleeping in beds.
Yeah, first time.
Oh my God.
Oh, I think we might have stayed in someone's bed in Caen when we went back to Caen to leave our bikes. But our mom looked us in the eye and said, if you steal anything from this hotel room, I swear to God, I'll kill you. Right? Like, they kind of knew. We were looking pretty ratty at this point. And we just, it was great. We stayed in a 3-star hotel. And it wasn't until we were in Portugal, down in the Algarve, that Barb, our mom, discovered that Jeanette, in fact, had stolen a towel from the Amsterdam hotel.
Oh, Jesus.
Because we just, it was, time to replenish our supplies, really. Yeah. And so that's the story of making it to Amsterdam in time.
That's the Kenney sisters. No wonder they're infamous. That's only one of their stories. Amazing.
Yeah, and so people, like, we had a friend, for example, my sister ended up settling in Australia. And we had a friend who was after us, because we had been skydiving all over Australia, had traveled around Australia and said, oh my God, is there anywhere you two haven't been? Because everywhere he went, they would say, oh, but do you know the Kenney sisters? Do you know those guys? So, yeah, we kind of came in twos.
That's amazing. I love that story. That's a gorgeous one. Thanks, Denise.
You're welcome.
Thank you, imaginary friend.
You're very welcome. You didn't stop me. You could have stopped me at any point.
No, are you kidding? This is so great. Okay, I have to do a little bit of business. You hang out there. Don't go away. Don't show us your boobs, because it's not that kind of show. Here we are. Well, I had somebody who started to look up their nose, so I'm just giving you a heads up. Here we are. You can send letters or photographs. You can do selfies. Look, I'm going to give you time to do a selfie with Denise. Smile. And you can send them to michaelvsmith.com, or you can tweet them out. I have no idea who my guest is tomorrow, so we're just going to figure it out. So I can't tell you the name of the story in advance. No big deal. You can like this video if you liked it. Of course you did. You can share it. You can share any of the other videos, and you can subscribe to the channel. You can also click the notification bell, which I forgot again because I'm on a new routine and who knows what is going on. But the notification bell will tell you whenever we're going live. 8 o'clock every night. Have I told you the one about? Yeah, I think that's it. Thanks, everyone. Denise, let's blow a kiss goodbye. I love you, people. Thank you, Denise.
Ciao.
Ciao.